I think that we are on. We don't have much on the agenda today, just a status report, and I don't think that following back with the other day's issues or conclusions, I don't think that much happened in the front of having this graph traverser with the node visitator pattern that Sebastian wanted to work on. He already said that this week was not going to be possible to make a lot of progress on that front, so no surprises there. And yeah, let's see how that goes. I think that there is a strong point in making the web services layer in Drupal be a specification agnostic. That way we can have things like JSON API, which seems to be hot in some communities like Ember, or and it follows the REST best practices. Well, it's kind of more common to have REST support nowadays than to have GraphQL. But then there is GraphQL, and there is a lot of stuff that these guys are doing, which is amazing and has a lot of potential. And hopefully we can cross-pollinate with both projects. And with the specification agnostic ideal that we seem to be converging on, I think that it would be nice to put the foundation on what it could be an easy way to add another specification on top of what we already have. Like, it's not just reinventing the wheel again. But yeah, we'll see when we get deeper into the sharing part. We'll see how this jives together, because from what I've been researching, there may be some stuff that may be reusable, but in other circumstances, the reusability may cause a lot of pain to reach there. So at some point we diverge paths, and when that happens, then going back, it's kind of difficult. So yeah, I don't have a lot of extra thoughts about this specification agnostic topic. I don't know if you guys want to add anything on that.
Yeah, honestly, I really struggle to see how we can make like significant improvements to that, just given the very different nature of how things are organized and presented. I think kind of the underlying specification that we're all reusing is the idea of like entity queries and entity interfaces, and just a type system that already exists. And perhaps once we kind of see like fully fleshed out implementations of both, we'll see the patterns that have evolved in both, and we can break that out. But I think making that a priority for ahead of time probably isn't the best way to approach it.
Right. Yes. I agree. We should see how we can evolve and then go back and put things together to reuse this. I honestly think that reusability has a strong point. Like, for instance, with the approach that we are doing, which is reusing as much as possible from course REST system. We are getting things like cache for free. We are getting things like a lot of the problems that have been faced during the D8 development cycle. We don't have to worry about those, and we don't have to know them because we are reusing the system. And so that is for reusing course system. And if we get into some needs that we have together, like for example the schema of the resources, like saying something like saying this is what an articles resource is, and this is what it looks like, and these are the fields, and the fields are of this type, and you can apply these transformation functions to every field, etc., etc. That is very interesting, and I think that is something that the existing REST system doesn't provide, and that we will need to support. And on top of that, there is the versions that we want, because we want to do versioning, and hopefully that ties into the schema really well. And with that idea, we can solve that for both projects at the same time. But I see how this can be a future problem. Let these guys that are in this meeting deal with it in a couple of months, if this is something that happens. And if it doesn't happen, I think that we will need to do it anyways in some way or another. Maybe not the same technical solution, but the features need to be there. And I'm thinking about things like what happens if you change a field from a single cardinality to multiple cardinality. Or what if you want to do a rename, or you want to deprecate a field, and you don't want to break backwards compatibility. This kind of stuff, I think that can be shared across these two projects, and hopefully any other project that comes in the future to implement the needs specification that is very strong in these other technologies, or just because. Um, but yeah, totally see your point. Let's not get paralysis waiting on this to happen, because this is not blocking anyone at this moment. So if you guys have anything else or any other thought on this, I'm gonna, if not, I'm gonna move on to the status report for JSON API for this week.
Mateo, I have a quick question about the search. I'm not sure if we can do a full text search, for example. Is it possible? Because I'm thinking, I'm not sure if this is a really good idea, but maybe we can create a search API module, but I'm not really sure that it makes sense. Because if we are searching for example, articles or pages with this text, for example, could be useful to execute the search in Solar index or in a database index. But I'm thinking about it. I'm not really sure how to fix the problems that we could have with access permissions depending on the index. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I would like to know, what do you think about this idea? If you are
So how I approached this problem in the past is that search is not real. It's kind of, we could argue about this, but search is not really a resource. But you will want to be able to do searching. So if you cannot get away with just filters, like adding a filter with a like operator in there for a specific field, which would be searching in a field, but if you can get away with that, then that's done. If you cannot, then what I have done in the past was just treat this as if it was a resource that only supports collections, like listing of items, and that has a special parameter, which is a query, and then use Search API to return the results. I did this for Drupal 7. It's called RESTful Search API, and it does that, but it's kind of a little bit hacky. And I think that this should belong to a separate project. It would be like an integration, a new integration to
Yeah, sure.
add search support. But yeah, there's definitely interest and a valid point in doing that.
But what I don't know if it makes sense to invest part of my time, trying to work on that, or maybe the solution is to create a resource, an endpoint using use module, for example, and adding the filters, and that's all.
That could be a way of doing it. I honestly haven't put too much thought on how I would do it in Drupal 8. If this is something that you need or you feel passionate about, definitely I would just encourage you to go for it. If you're asking more on terms of priorities at this moment with the JSON API effort, I would say that it's not in the current priorities at the moment. There are like some basic things that are still not there that we should work on first.
Sure, this is only one idea, and
this will
your opinion.
This will need to happen. This will need to happen because people will want to do search in their decouple apps, right? They will want to sit in their plane and see, okay, give me I don't know, whatever search result using this seat integrated digital experience. So
in your opinion, it makes sense at some point.
It does, having some kind of indexed search, leveraging Search API. But yeah, this kind of ties in the dedicated things that are not really REST, because it ties a lot of presentation when you build an index, because you index the things that you want to make available and all that. But yeah, so status. Things that we've built during this week. We have now get support for files, for file fields, and for file entities, which was surprising, but it was there out of the box. We just needed to remove some stuff that was getting on the way, and that was it. We also have support for config entities, which is very exciting because we don't have those inside of REST in core, and it works well. I mean, you can do gets of individual entities. You can do collections, list all of the node types, for instance. You can do even filters on there to just search for a particular configuration entity. If you have need of that, you can do sparse field sets. You cannot do includes because there is, or at least I haven't seen how to tie with the concept of relationships. I don't know if configuration entities can have relationships. So far, I haven't found a case of a configuration entity having a relationship. Maybe we should provide a path to specify, saying, hey, this is my custom config entity, and it does have a relationship. How do we make that work? So config entities, file entities. We also started getting support for for posts. We have posts for individual entities. You can create a page in JSON API. You just have to put the JSON API payload, make a post request, and you create it. That's simple, and it leverages. At this point, it leverages all of the available authentication providers. So we also did that. We integrated authentication providers inside of the requests. You don't have a way of saying this resource for this particular method has this authentication provider enabled or not. That, in my opinion, is kind of difficult to understand when someone new comes in. So we don't have this at this moment. If you have an authentication provider, then you have it available for the JSON API requests, and we may revisit that in the future. Other things that we did this week are delete support. You just issue a delete request, and it deletes the entity. That's it. What else? We did a bunch of developer experience related improvements. We have now the current request service. Sorry, it's current context, or yeah, but I forgot the name. It basically gives you the context of the request being made at this moment, so you can get things like the resource configuration, if what path it is that you're requesting, what entity type and bundle, and so on. And that is that has been proven to be very useful because of how we want to give the developer, how to empower the developers to hook into the code, write their own normalizer, and now.
Yeah, we're great.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. My headset died, and no more battery, and I couldn't just. I needed to reload somehow. So I was I forgot what I was talking about, but I think that these services that we added for developer experience will allow future customizations to be made very easily without having to make a patch to the JSON API module. And lastly, we started giving support to post operations in relationships. That is a JSON API thing. When you do something like articles/1, you talk about article 1. Then if you do articles/1/relationships, and then slash the name of the relationship, which could be something like articles1 relationships field tags, you can do a post operation in there and say that you need to add a new relationship, a new tag to article 1. So we did that, and to do this we needed to have the serializer create entity reference fields, etc. So that should be merged there, and the current effort is to give more support in the relationships, like deleting relationships and updating relationships. Okay, 5 more minutes. Do you guys have any questions, any ideas on how we are, or how you want to contribute to the project?
So for the moment, I want to take a look to the issue, you know. So I have no time. But anyway, I will try to do it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Maybe the next week. So I hope so.
That's fantastic to hear. You will see that we are just making issues as we need them. I think that the more pressing needs are having updates via patch operations, and for that, I think that there is a good explanation in the JSON API specification on how that needs to happen. That could be a good focus during this week, getting patch support for individual entities, both content entities and configuration entities. Yeah, I think that is a good goal for this next week to have that in.
Okay.
So being able to do updates on entities. Guys, I have a hard stop right now because I have another meeting happening. But we know each other. We can just ping in IRC if anything, any question needs to be addressed or something else. So it was a pleasure. I'm sorry, I had a lot of stuff to say. I almost didn't allow anyone else to talk. But we can ping in IRC if you want.
Okay, Mateo. Thanks.
Thank you, Mateo. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Let's start the recording now.